You can see that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed. And Andre, if you could keep an eye on the waiting room and let people in, I would appreciate it. So welcome everyone to the May 10th meeting of Faculty Council. What I think we all hope will be the last meeting that we'll hold on Zoom. And so we're looking forward to returning to our in-person meetings beginning in September. So let's hope the conditions will permit it. So I'm going to launch the attendance poll. Please indicate your attendance at the meeting. I'll let that run for a minute or so, and then we'll move on the agenda. I'll leave the attendance poll up for just another few seconds. So please indicate your attendance at the meeting. And if you could take a moment to mute yourself if you've just joined the meeting and you're not planning to speak right away. And as usual, if you would please use the raise hand function in Zoom to indicate that you wish to speak. It'll help if we can minimize the background noise by having everyone muted. Okay, I'm going to close the attendance poll. And now we move on to the consideration of the minutes of April 5th. Are there any questions or corrections for those minutes?
Tim, you should announce that you have a quorum or show it or whatever.
Oh, thank you. You did it. We have 97 people in attendance according to the poll, which is a quorum for our purposes. Any questions about or corrections for the minutes? Not seeing any hands raised, so why don't we go ahead and vote on that poll as well. Give you another 10 seconds or so to vote on the approval of the minutes if you so wish. Okay. And you can see the minutes are approved. And now we move on to the presentations from the steering committee. We have to start with a somber note here. We have occasion to remember 3 of our faculty colleagues who have passed recently. I should correct that Professor Greenbaum was a member of the physics department, not CIS. I apologize for the mistake. But I've asked a faculty member who knew each of our colleagues to say a word of remembrance. So we'll begin with a remembrance of Professor Chris Dunbar, and I'll ask Anjana to say a few words.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. Professor Christopher Dunbar joined Brooklyn College in 1990 and was an active member and ex-chair of kinesiology department for more than 3 decades, until recently when he became a very collegial member of biology department. He has contributed more than 80 papers, abstracts, monographs, and books to the medical and scientific literature in diverse areas, including exercise prescription, exercise biochemistry and molecular biology, ergogenic aids, body composition, stress testing, and electrocardiography. His latest book, which was published in December 2021, is an ECG text designed for clinicians involved in stress testing and cardiac rehabilitation. Late Dr. Dunbar was a fellow of the American College of Sports Medicine, ACSM, served as a reviewer and was on the international advisory and editorial boards for a number of US and European scientific and medical journals. He had served as a consultant for professional sports teams and major corporations. He was an ACSM certified clinical exercise specialist and physiologist, and a State Guard Association of the United States qualified military emergency management specialist, a commissioned officer in the Medical Service Corps, and a member of Dobnow's Devils combat pistol team of the New York Guard. He will be missed by his family, students, friends, and colleagues alike. Thanks.
Thank you. And now to remember Professor Joe Greenbaum, Yadidja would like to say a few words.
So I first met Professor Greenbaum when I came to Brooklyn College in 1969 as a physics student, and he was my physics lab instructor. I got acquainted at that point with what science is really all about. And I must say that I did pretty well in that class, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. What I remember most from Dr. Greenbaum, and again, I don't have, he was a member of the physics department, and I don't have his vita handy and all the papers that he's published and so on. But for those who were on faculty council when I was, and when many of you were from very old time, he was, number one, the parliamentarian par excellence. There was no one else who had the institutional memory that he had going back to years, obviously, even before we came to council. He had always read every document that faculty council produced and corrected us when there were mistakes to be found. He was a gentleman. What many of you may not know, he was also a well-known Jewish scholar who had published and written many work in religious Talmudic law. He stayed behind for many years, offering his service on faculty council. And even afterwards, when I became chair and there were questions on parliamentarian procedure, and before I took the time to read Robert's rules and to find out something about the history of faculty council and how it evolved over many years, he was always available. We will miss him.
Thank you. And finally, we remember Professor Peter Foges from Television, Radio, and Emerging Media, and I've asked George Rodman to say a few words. George?
Thanks, Tim. Can you hear me all right? The Department of Television, Radio, and Emerging Media wishes to honor the memory of Peter Foges, who was an adjunct instructor in the department for over a decade. He passed away 3 weeks ago. He was vital to our mission of educating the community on the relationship between democratic values and mass media. His illustrious career in public and commercial broadcasting gave enhanced credibility to his classroom. He started in Great Britain working with David Frost, and he came to the United States when he was appointed the BBC US Bureau Chief. He went on to direct national news and public affairs at WNET, where he produced a series of timely documentaries, including one entitled Putin's Russia. He knew everybody and was mentor to current leading figures at various news outlets, including the New York Times. His son, Alex, is also part of the community, Brooklyn College community as an alumnus. On a more personal note, his anecdotes and generosity helped his students and his colleagues at Brooklyn College to feel that they were part of an enduring democratic civilization. Fogis's legacy is to be treasured in these hard times. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could ask for a moment of silent reflection to remember our colleagues, please. Thank you. Next, we move on to a brief report of the results of the recent UFS election. As you know, the size of the Brooklyn College UFS delegation had changed because of the size of our faculty has declined. And so we had an election for the two alternate positions for the upcoming year. And we elected Professors Wong from Health and Nutrition Science and Beck from Finance for those alternate positions for the year. So thank you to both of them for their willingness to serve in UFS. Next, we move on to a couple of resolutions presented by the steering committee. We'll begin with a resolution to establish a position of student government liaison. Let me share my screen if that would help. So you can see here, the idea would be to create a position, a student government liaison, to a person who would be selected by student government as they should decide, who would attend faculty council meetings with voice but no vote. The primary idea being that we would establish a sort of open and permanent line of communication with the students, as we are often dealing with matters that students are concerned with. So I'm going to stop my screen share to make it easier to see the group. If I can share again if necessary. So let's open the floor for questions and comments. I see Professor Langsam is up first. Yadidja.
Hi, I just wonder whether student government has similarly committed to put a seat to a faculty member on their governance body, also with voice and no vote, or is this a one-sided agreement?
I am happy to ask student government to create a faculty liaison position with voice and no vote, if that's the will of the body. I've sort of discussed it informally with the leadership of student government. I don't believe they would object to it at all. So if members of faculty council would like that, I'm happy to do so. I don't think we should let that get in the way of our consideration of this issue. We would be creating a position. We could ask them to reciprocate, but as far as I know, the student government does not have that position already in place. Yadidja, I don't know if that answered your question or if you had anything else you wanted to add.
Well, I mean, I'd like a little bit more of a commitment that you will pursue this. I don't want to make an amendment that making this dependent on that, but it would seem to me that everything our government stands on is a checks and balances system, and it's balanced, as you know, quite evenly. And I do not like making changes to governance that are not symmetric.
Okay, I will commit to you all publicly that I will make a formal request of student government for the creation of that position. Jocelyn.
I just want to wholeheartedly endorse this resolution, and I think it's past time that we actually did this. And I would also like to suggest that we think about having a position for staff as well, maybe on a rotating basis, to have a voice on faculty council as well, because we really need to hear from staff and their concerns. So thanks.
Thank you. That will be an item for discussion at steering in the upcoming academic year. Any other questions or comments before we put this to a vote? Is your hand up again? Thank you. Okay, I see no other raised, Maria, go ahead, please.
Hi, there are two student government bodies, no? So are you?
Not currently. The two merged into a single USG student government.
Oh, so graduate students don't have.
Well, they're incorporated in the current student government.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Isn't there a graduate student government as well as an undergraduate? Only one?
Yeah, it's my understanding that it's just United Student Government. When I meet with student government leaders, I meet with undergraduate and graduate student leaders. Michelle may have some specific information on this.
Sure. So can folks hear me? I'm using okay, great. 2 years ago, perhaps, gosh, maybe it was before the pandemic, I guess it was, which means it was 100 years ago. There were two undergraduate student governments, and those merged into the USG. There was one for like part-time and full-time students. There is still something called GSO, the Graduate Student Organization, and there's the USG, which is the undergraduate student government. They work hand in hand, but they are separate entities. So just for clarification.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so I will make a request of both student government bodies for that position. If now I may come back to this body and ask for volunteers to staff that position. So just keep that in mind for next year. Eddie.
Yeah, good afternoon to everyone. Yes, I am in support of that idea, and also I second Jocelyn in what she said, because team, you and I and other staff member of Black faculty and staff, we met with you and we expressed also our concern, and we would like also to see a member of Black faculty and staff being invited at Faculty Council, at least to listen to hear what is going on. So I agree. So, and I think that Justin made also a great point. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Let me. I'm glad you asked that question, and I want to remind everybody that. Of course, these items often come from steering and are presented in this section of the meeting, but all delegates to Faculty Council are empowered to bring resolutions before this body. So we could certainly, not to suggest that we try to do that today, but we could certainly entertain proposals to add representatives, if that's reflects the will of the body. So this is a discussion that steering will continue to have next year, but you all needn't necessarily wait for steering to bring a resolution to council if you want to make a specific recommendation. Maria.
So following up, so there are two separate student governments, or three at this point, two graduate student ones. So is this only for the undergraduate that you're asking, or are they both going to get together and elect one representative to to represent both undergraduate and graduate student concerns at Faculty Council?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. So at the moment, this is just to elect a single student liaison, and it'll, as Michelle pointed out, the various groups work actually very closely together, which is why I assumed they were a single group. But we'll let the student governments decide how to select that student. If we decide it would make sense to have an undergrad and grad student represented in this body, we could certainly make that change next year. Okay, I see no additional hands, so I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. give you another 10 seconds or so to vote if you intend to. Okay. As you can see, the resolution passes with 85 yes votes, 3 noes, and 7 abstentions. Very good. So we'll move on then to the second resolution that steering is presenting. So let me very briefly share that resolution with you. I think that there will be more occasion for discussion. So herein, what we're doing is establishing, partly in response to the discussion at our April meeting. So this is a resolution that concerns expanding membership in faculty council for a delegate from all of the interdisciplinary programs. It would be a single delegate, not as is the case with current departments where we have a chair and an elected delegate. It would just be one delegate, but partly in response to some discussion from April, we decided that we would propose that that delegate be elected as other delegates are to faculty council for a 3-year term. So that delegate could be the program director, but does not need to be. The main thing that we're adding in the resolution that you see before you is the criteria by which faculty council would identify what constitutes an interdisciplinary program. As you may recall from last month, the current governance plan includes membership of 5 program directors, and it indicated that programs would be identified by criteria determined by faculty council. It turns out those criteria were never actually enumerated, and so partly what we want to do here is enumerate them. And I would say the key element here is that the characteristics with which we or by which we recognize an interdisciplinary program are characteristics that faculty council itself controls, right? So an interdisciplinary program has to offer a curriculum approved by faculty council. So no such program could exist without a faculty council approval of their curriculum, and it has to offer at least one major, minor, or concentration. And so you can see the other characteristics there. So we would be asking policy council to change the governance plan, the Article 2, Section C of the governance plan that defines faculty council to include a delegate from every interdisciplinary program. So currently that would be 10. That number, of course, could change in the future as the number of programs that meet these criteria changes. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say by way of framing the issue. Again, I'm going to stop my screen share so that I can see you all and open the floor for questions and comments. Carolina.
Hi, everybody. So I just wanted to fully support this proposal. I think that our college has not really dealt with interdisciplinary programs really well. And I think the programs and the directors are often second-class citizens. So I think it's time for them to be fully included. Some of these programs are actually larger than academic departments. And I think it's time for them to be fully included in the governance of the college. Thanks.
Thank you. Jillian.
I also want to speak in support of this resolution. I want to point out that many of these programs serve a lot of our students, and it's really important that the directors who are so invested in supporting our students and making sure that they succeed have an active part in our governance here in faculty council. I also want to remind you, this is a recommendation to policy council. So there are other stages that are going to go along here with this resolution that are going to be provoked by this resolution. But I think that including these voices and letting them have an active part in this body is a great idea and absolutely what we should do. Thanks.
Thank you. Diana?
I just wanted to underscore and reiterate what's been said so far in support of this resolution, and the students that are served right through these interdisciplinary programs are numerous. And so if there's no representation, there's really what we're doing is subjecting these programs to second-class citizenship. So I think it behooves us to really consider how important representation is in our governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mona?
Yeah, I've thought long and hard, and I'm going to throw my hat in the rink with this resolution. I think it's a good thing. I think that government should be both inclusive and nimble. I do have a resolution that Tim is going to let me bring later. You'll tell me when to vote on where they're housed. But right now, my vote is with you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, Mona, we'll entertain your resolution in new business.
Sure, but just let me know.
Yeah, I will call on you. Eddie?
Yes. Also, I wanted to speak in support of this resolution. As someone who has served on the steering committee of Caribbean Studies, and also I taught one of the first course I taught at Brooklyn College, Caribbean Political System, was for the program of Africana Studies, Caribbean Studies, and Political Science. And at Brooklyn College, for instance, our Caribbean student body is very important. So I think, yeah, definitely, the director of those programs, they are doing wonderful work, and they should also have a voice on faculty council. Thank you.
Thank you. Yehuda?
Just unmuting myself. I'm on the steering committee of the Urban Sustainability Program, and I clearly support the fuller participation of interdisciplinary programs in governance. However, I say that with one caveat. I believe that the same expectations that we expect of every department should be expected of interdisciplinary programs. In specifically, we should establish a governance structure, including bylaws for each program before they are given participation in faculty council. I don't know where that comes in, but that's my only caveat.
Thank you. Ricardo?
Yes, I also want to thank and commend the people who work on the revision of this resolution. I think in the discussion we had last month, there were a lot of concerns about, who selected these representatives, and those concerns were important in terms of keeping the authority of faculty council in the faculty. And I think this new resolution shows the ability to listen and the ability to dialogue that this body should strive for. So I'm thankful for that, and I support this resolution.
Thank you. And Ricardo, thank you to you for suggesting that the delegate be elected. I think that proved to be a very useful idea. Yedidja?
I just wanted to correct Professor Klein. There is no department at the college, none, that has its own bylaws. There is no such thing as departmental bylaws. No matter what one or two departments think they may have, they've been told by me and by the lawyer that their bylaws are meaningless. So no, you can't expect a program to have bylaws when your department doesn't have bylaws either.
Although I certainly take Yehuda's comment in terms of the spirit, if not the letter. And one of the things that we wanted to do was ask, to confirm that departments are substantial and reflect real areas of scholarship and teaching. And so we're requiring, the list of criteria that programs have an advisory board, and that they have a steering committee with, with a written policy for electing a director nominee that has that programs have mission statements and learning goals and so forth. Just some of the same burdens that we also place on departments. So I think that is in our best interest to make sure that we are developing interdisciplinary programs with that same seriousness with which we approach departments. Are there other? Maria, yes, sorry, thank you, Maria.
Hi, I just wanted to note that some of our interdisciplinary programs are decades old, and not all of them have been able to be represented in faculty council, which is where the programs, right, their courses are voted upon, and yet they don't necessarily have a right to vote on them except for the ones that were already part of it. So in terms of equity, I definitely support this resolution. It's important for people to have a voice and vote. The fact that they're sort of homeless in a way, right? These programs, it's hard for them to get some institutional support. I think having a voted faculty council will at least start to remedy some of that. So I really strongly support this resolution, and thank you for all who've worked on it and who've worked so long without the representation. I think it's fair time to change that now, today. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen. Kathleen, you're still muted.
Thanks. I'd like to understand what the process is now. First of all, it's not clear to me what it is that Policy Council is doing. And then two, does it come back to Faculty Council? Do we vote on something else, or is this the end of our input here?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. So if we pass this resolution, it will go first to the governance and policy subcommittee of Policy Council. That group will formulate a resolution for Policy Council to vote on, which would be a proposal to change a section, language in the relevant section of the college governance plan. That would, and then if Policy Council adopted it, that governance change would eventually have to go before the board. So it wouldn't be approved until it was approved formally by the board, because it's a change to the governance plan. But that process wouldn't necessarily involve explicitly a loop back to Faculty Council unless Policy Council decided they wanted more input. So they might refer it back and ask us for clarification, but they may not. They may just act on it, and it may go from the subcommittee to the full Policy Council body for a vote. So we should approach this as if this is the recommendation that we want to make to Policy Council.
And so that's the end of our participation in this, unless they ask us for more. Okay.
Unless they ask us for more, unless they refer it back to us. Yes.
Thank you.
Anjana.
Yeah, hi. I'm a little confused about earlier Maria's comment that these programs are kind of orphanage sort of, but I thought there are already 5 seats available for these interdisciplinary programs. Out of 10, that makes it 50% representation of those programs. The second question I have is, if these courses are offered and these interdisciplinary program exist and these are the faculty teaching the courses, so they are somewhat involved, even if not all the directors are at the meeting, it's the faculty who basically approves the courses. So I'm little not able to understand why it is considered as like totally misrepresented in the faculty council.
Sure. So, one of the issues, of course, is that it's a subset of current programs and not all of the programs. So one of the things that we're hoping to remedy is making it all of the programs, just as it is all of the departments. All of the curriculum developed in any interdisciplinary program is created by a curriculum committee and then goes to the faculty council curriculum committee and then eventually to this body. So that process doesn't change. But just as departments have representatives of the department at this body, and the schools have elected representatives that deliberate about the curriculum and about other academic policy, that's where the programs are being underrepresented, right? So yes, their curriculum comes before this body, but they don't get to vote on that. They don't get to vote on any of the other policy issues that we consider. Some do, because 5 of the programs are currently members. But again, it would be the idea that we would be expanding membership to include all of the programs on principle, right? That the legitimacy of all of the programs is accepted, and so they should all be represented in this body. That's the thinking behind the resolution. Jennifer.
I'm not on my usual computer, so I'm on my work computer, my office computer. I'm not against this resolution, but I'm just wondering why we're not having the conversation about Mona's resolution before we talk about this resolution. It seems like they're a little bit coupled based on some of the conversation traffic that's been going on for the last several weeks. So I'm just wondering, it just seems a little funky that they're decoupled.
Well, yeah, because this resolution is specifically about membership in faculty council, and it's a request to policy council to edit a specific part of the governance document, which concerns membership in faculty council. Other issues which folks are interested in discussing can be brought to faculty council, but they're not germane to this resolution because they don't speak to membership in faculty council. And the reason that we're doing it in this order is simply because that's the order on the agenda. So resolutions from delegates come under new business, but steering is a standing committee. So the standing committees appear earlier on the agenda. So we will have an opportunity to discuss the resolution that Mona plans to bring, and of course any other delegate could raise any other issues that they wish to during new business as well. I see your hand is up. Forgive me if I've been skipping you. I don't know if that was from before, if you wish to speak to this resolution.
Actually, it's from before, but I wanted to confirm what you just said, that in fact is the proper procedure. Amendments are only amending if they are germane to the amendment on the floor. You can't just tack on anything. This, unfortunately or fortunately, is not Congress in the Senate and the House of Representatives, where you can add everything in the kitchen sink onto a bill. So this is the proper procedure. I just want to also just inform you that I've just received an email. Tim, you probably did as well, but you didn't check your email, from the Vice President of Student Government, who says they gladly confirm that they will give a position until they can amend their constitution to reflect the permanent position. So they, in fact, agree to what I had asked.
Excellent. So that's actually relevant to the prior resolution, and our parliamentarian would probably tell us it's out of order to talk about it now, but good. That is nonetheless good news. I don't see any other hands raised. So if there's no further comments for discussion, I will open up the poll and we can vote on this resolution. Okay. Please take a moment to vote if you intend to in the next 15 seconds or so. Last chance. Okay, I believe that's everybody. I'll close the poll and share the results. And you can see that the resolution has passed. 79 votes in favor, 7 no, and 11 abstentions. 56 is our quorum, so 56 would represent a majority. Thank you for that. Let me stop sharing and return to the agenda. And we are now ready for reports, communication from the administration. President Anderson.
Thanks, Tim. Hi, everyone. It's very nice to see you all, although I wish that we were in person, as always. I hope you are having a nice end to this semester. I should mention that I have to leave for a CUNY Central meeting at about 4:30 today. Just to let you know, I'm not abandoning ship, just need to attend to other business. I want to thank everyone for your endurance this semester, for bringing your excellent teaching and service and scholarship to what has been yet another very challenging semester. I really want to say that I appreciate your hard work, both on faculty council and in general. Thank you. Faculty council asked me to address 2 items, but they also asked a number of other questions. They had other questions on budget and enrollment. So I've asked Alan and Lillian to address them after I report out. First matter is on a commuting app. You may recall that we talked about the possibility of developing an app for kind of commuting together, and faculty council asked me to look into that possibility of the college developing a commuting together app for folks to use as they come to and depart from the campus. I talked to some tech people and others, and there is a concern about privacy on this issue and how such an app might actually increase vulnerability because it would transmit location and travel information, which might be used to target people. So that's a challenge, at least. So then we looked into developing maybe a low-tech option, possibly run by work-study students in the Women's Center, but wondered if such a program might present similar concerns. I reached out and talked to Director Sao-Fong Ah of the Women's Center, and she said that it's an interesting idea and we should sort of hold it for the fall and see where we are in the fall in terms of a demand for that kind of a program in the fall. Next, Faculty Council Steering asked me to report out on the recent trip to Israel. On April 27th, I joined a delegation of CUNY College presidents led by the CUNY Chancellor for a study tour to the region. What's called the Scholars as Bridge Builders program is a partnership between the Chancellor's office, himself, and the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York. And the centerpiece of the study tour was our visits to 3 colleges to speak with both Jewish and Arab students, faculty, and administrators. We heard from people with divergent perspectives on higher education, equality and diversity efforts within higher education, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and the prospects for peace. On the trip, we met Jewish Israelis, Arab Israelis, Palestinian residents of East Jerusalem, Ethiopian Jews, Palestinians in the West Bank city of Ramallah, religious and secular Jews and Muslims, human rights attorneys, peace activists, leading journalists and researchers, college administrators, faculty, students, and elected officials. We visited the old city of Jerusalem, the center of three of the world's major religions, and sacred sites of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Western Wall, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. We met the president and the provost of Hebrew University, who discussed the strengths and weaknesses of the high school to college pipeline program they developed for Palestinian students from East Jerusalem. We visited Sapir College, the largest public college in Israel, which is aimed at serving underserved communities, including Bedouin Arab students, and met the president and the provost, who discussed the challenges of running a campus that becomes fearful and contentious with each act of violence in the country. At Tel Aviv University, we met the Commissioner of Equality, Equity, and Diversity, and other administrators who discussed their efforts to support first-generation students and to increase the number of women and Arabs on the faculty. We also met students of many different stripes on the tour. For example, we met an ultra-Orthodox graduate student at Tel Aviv University and an undergraduate Palestinian resident of East Jerusalem at Hebrew University. We toured the Palestinian city of Ramallah and met the most recent Minister of Higher Education for the Palestinian Authority, Dr. Sabri Sayedam, and the former Minister of State in the Palestinian Authority and a member of the negotiating team for the 1994 Israeli-Palestinian Agreement, Ziad Abu Zayad. They discussed the challenges for education in the Palestinian territories. We had an official visit with the President of Israel, Isaac Herzog, and we enjoyed a Shabbat dinner at the home of an ultra-Orthodox family and met students from a nearby yeshiva there. We met faculty members and scholars as well, such as Professor Limor Yehuda at Hebrew University, who wrote Collective Equality, Human Rights and Democracy in the Resolution of Ethno-National Conflicts, which advances a new paradigm for the law of peace in the land. We also met Professor Khalil Shikaki, world-renowned research scholar on public opinion and director of the Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey Research, who discussed attitudes of Palestinians, Arab Israelis, and Jewish Israelis with regard to peace and the political future of the region. We also spent a very emotional half day at Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Museum. The range of people we met and the experience we had on the study tour resonated strongly with core academic values of open-mindedness, listening to others, assessing the evidence and historical facts, considering different interpretations of that evidence and those facts, enhancing empathy for people from very different backgrounds, and being willing to evolve when faced with new perspectives. I went on the study tour to learn, to hear directly from people with diverse viewpoints, and to enhance my understanding of the complexity of the region in order to better serve our college community. So that is my report on 2 items. I can entertain questions, or I can turn to Anne and Alan and Lillian.
Are there any questions for President Anderson? Jocelyn.
Thank you very much for that report, President Anderson. I just have a couple of interrelated quick questions. Some of us are wondering how, if you could briefly describe how you represented BC priorities during the visit, if at all, and what do you see as the potential benefits to us from your visit, to particularly our students? And as a follow-up to that, we've recently learned about the new restrictions scheduled to go into effect in July on the academic freedoms of Palestinian universities in relation to hiring and firing of faculty and access of international students and researchers to Palestinian academic institutions. I'm wondering, did these issues come up during your visit? And if they did, could you share what you learned about how people in Israel and in Palestine feel about this change in policy? Thanks so much.
So that's a lot in terms of questions. So let me see if I can make sure I get all of them. How did I represent Brooklyn College? This was a study tour, and I was there to learn and to listen. I was invited by the Chancellor of CUNY to attend, and I didn't make presentations myself. There was quite a bit of intellectual engagement, and I certainly probed a lot to understand, in particular, the higher educational challenges in very under challenging circumstances, and equity and diversity issues in higher education. But I did not make a presentation or represent Brooklyn College in that way. How would the, I think your second question, Jocelyn, was how the trip would benefit our students. You know, I think that the region holds profound meaning for many of our students on all sides of the political divide. And I felt that going and listening and learning from very different perspectives and different sides, official, unofficial, formal, informal, would help me understand where my students, my faculty, our students, our staff, our alums are coming from. And I certainly, as an academic value, feel like learning and exposing myself to different voices is an important value and will help enhance my ability to lead here. And then in terms of the last issue on the recent restrictions, they came down when we were actually in Israel. We were at Tel Aviv University that day, and all of us were scrambling, probably in the way many people in the States were scrambling, to try to understand the restrictions and to understand what the impact of those restrictions might be. I think it's fair to say that any restrictions on academic engagement with folks across the region, within the Palestinian territories, within Israel, any restrictions on people's ability to travel, to educate themselves, would be opposed by everyone who was involved in this study tour, for obvious reasons.
Joseph.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Tim. I want to ask about something that's unrelated to the two topics you raised. I want to start by thanking Anne for holding the forum on faculty hiring last Thursday, which gave so many people an opportunity to speak. And I wanted to ask you about the situation in Pearls. I'm one of 130 faculty members that signed a letter to you. And my understanding is that Pearls was in danger of dropping to 3 faculty members. And my understanding is in the current cycle of hiring, they're going to get to 4, which is terrific. That's really great news. The letter also expressed concern because even with 4, that department is only going to have 1 tenured faculty member, which I think is, unsustainable for very long. I can't imagine, I don't know, but I'd be curious to know if there is any other department at the college that has only 1 tenured faculty member.
Yeah.
And I'm curious where that stands as a priority as you and the provost start to look ahead for lines for next year.
Yeah, thanks for that, Joseph. The request from the document, the petition that you signed and that many of your colleagues signed, was for the opportunity for Pearls to make a second hire from the hiring pool and from the process that initially was about hiring 1. We sat with the search committee, talked carefully with them about their concerns and their issues. And the provost and I made a decision to hire a second hire. We're now going through a more global process of engaging with master planning, engaging with all of you. I think the Anne's dialogue with the faculty was part of that. Trying to identify what the priorities of the campus are for faculty hiring over a period of years. There are a lot of factors that go into that. And what I will say is that in general, it's not best practices to hire 2 from a pool where there's a search for 1, just because it allows that department to skip the line for resources ahead of other departments. But we felt like this was an unusual circumstance, as you mentioned. The number of faculty in Pearls was and has been a concern for some time. And the search itself didn't allow us to kind of make new ground because Maria Perez-Gonzalez agreed to become interim dean. So, that's an interim position, and I'm not sure how that would play out. I'm not going to predict now where this would be in the future. I certainly hear loud and clear what the position is of the folks who signed that petition. And we'll seek to kind of see how the provost and the master planning and the deans and the process evolves in terms of identifying what the multi-year priorities are for faculty hiring.
Thanks. Just a quick follow-up, and I know other people have questions. I'll just say, this letter comes on the heels of another letter that we wrote to you in 2018, asking you to get to Pearls to 5. That was also signed by over 100 faculty members. So Pearls hasn't been to 5 in over 9 years.
Yeah.
So I understand that it's complicated looking ahead to next year, but to me, to be a department with less than 5, with only 1 tenured faculty member to support the other 3 untenured faculty member does seem like an urgent situation. So I just want to underscore that and thank you for taking that into account as you and the provost and master planning and everybody else look ahead to next year. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Joseph.
Dov.
I want to express my appreciation to the Chancellor and the President for their efforts to bring goodwill to the people in the region of Israel and Palestine, and to the Jewish, Arab, and Muslim communities in Brooklyn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dov.
Carolina.
One question of clarification, and then I just want to echo some of what Joseph said. So on this trip to Israel, I hear the incredible range of people that you've talked to, and that's great. You didn't actually go to a Palestinian university, is that right? I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it.
Nope, we talked to the Minister of Higher Education, actually not the current, he's on the executive committee of the leadership of the Palestinian Authority, but the person who is the current Minister of Higher Education in the Palestinian Authority had another obligation that came up at the last minute. So the most recent prior minister and the Minister of State, the most recent prior Minister of State, we also listened to.
Great, thank you.
Or heard from, yeah.
And then in terms of Puerto Rican and Latino studies and other departments going into the future, I think we have seen the largest year-over-year budget being passed in New York State in a very, very, very long time. So I think that we have to, part of the problem, part of why this is complicated is because we've been underfunded for so long, and we keep losing faculty, right? We're down like almost 50, something like that, faculty at Brooklyn College. So I think we have to hire, we have to be visionary in our hiring, and we cannot continue having an austerity logic in the face of major financial increases to CUNY. And it's certainly not enough. We always need more at CUNY, but now is the time for hiring. So I think all of the departments who do not have a minimum of 5 people, and I think it's a number of them now, have to be made whole. That should be a priority for an institution that markets itself as a liberal arts institution of CUNY. And I think that we cannot continue to claim budget as the reason why we're not doing that. So it's not that complicated in the end to support our students, to support general ed, and to support the humanities and social sciences, the sciences, the visual media and performing arts in particular, who have not gotten what they need in the past, 20 years.
I appreciate that, Carolina. Alan is going to give a report on the budget. So if there are other questions about the budget particularly, maybe we should await Alan's presentation, but I appreciate your comments, Carolina.
Mariana.
Hi. So I was really glad about the meeting we had last week with the provost to talk about the lines. I feel like I learned a lot. But I did have a question about when somebody leaves before tenure or doesn't get tenure. What I thought I heard in the meeting was that line, right, the funds dedicated to that then kind of go back over to whatever the general budget, rather than maybe going directly to master planning to say like, wait, we just agreed we needed this line. Don't we still need it? So that to me was disappointing. Maybe I misunderstood, but it just feels like if somebody leaves before tenure for whatever the reason, right? Because they're unhappy or they don't get tenure, whatever, like we all agreed on that line already, right? And it's too fresh to just put back. So that alarmed me a little bit. So I hope that you can clarify how that works.
So I wasn't at the meeting with Anne, and I'm not sure whether or not I'll let Anne address that when we turn to her report. I don't know whether or not you're talking about someone leaving who's I don't know, I wasn't there, so I'm not going to speculate. There are a couple of ways to interpret the question. In any case, Anne was there, and I would ask Anne to answer it, but I see Jocelyn has perhaps a final question.
And it's really quick, thank you, because I know you have to go. Speaking of supporting our students, we know that in this budget, a real game changer took place, and that's TAP for part-time students. And I'm wondering when the college plans to announce that to our students and put it up on the website and rethink the policy of asking our students to take either 15 or 18 credits a semester when it is really problematic for them. And I really hope that we encourage students who are working to slow down and let them know that they can get TAP.
Yep. So we're going to announce it as soon as we understand it, Jocelyn. Yeah. We don't have any information on the details of what it means. Are other people here?
You are to put in each.
Sorry about that. So we hear that this has generally been passed, but we don't know how many semesters. We don't know how many credits are the minimum, if any. We don't know. We just don't know any details. As soon as we know the details, we're going to communicate them to the students. It will be part of the routine dialogue that financial aid has with students coming forward, okay? In the dialogues around how to pay for your education and how to do it in a way that makes sense.
Thank you.
So we're not hiding the ball. We just want to know what it means.
Okay.
I am so sorry because the president said she was pressed for time. But
that's okay. That's okay.
I heard that when scholarships, some financial aid and scholarship is not necessarily made available to undocumented students because of some rules. But John Jay College seems to have a way of working around those impediments. So I just want to say that I think that any kind of opportunities that are available to support undocumented students financially so that they can focus and have a good experience with us would be appreciated. So, what I would like actually is to maybe liaise a bit with John Jay College and see how they're doing things, and maybe those things can be adopted.
So thank you so much for that question, Funke. I know that Alan, not to throw you under the bus, Alan, but I know that Alan has done exactly that kind of liaisoning with, if that's a verb, liaising with John Jay, trying to figure out how to support our students here. I certainly agree with the thrust of your comment, which is about navigating all the financial routes that we can to try to support our students. So perhaps we could turn it over to the provost for a brief report, and then Alan, who can talk about your comment, Professor Okome, if that's okay.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I'm going to, are there other questions for me? I'm going to drop off to another meeting. All right. Thanks very much, everyone. I hope you have a good summer. If I don't see you before then, I hope to see you at graduation. Take care.
Thank you.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here and good to see everyone. I want to say that today we recognize faculty who have published books and also other media in the last year or so. There were 44 authors present, and it was a really exciting thing to see people in person. So I wanted to start on that note and say how wonderful it was, and congratulations to our 44 authors who were part of that. We have many other faculty who do many other creative things and publish in many different other kinds of venues. But to see these books was just a wonderful, wonderful thing. So if you weren't there, you would have loved it. So there are two things that I was asked to comment on and talk about. So one is the Reentry Review Board. So as you know, the Reentry Review Board, if you got email today, the Reentry Review Board has changed the visitor policy. So this is important if you have events on campus. The Reentry Review Board is now not requiring visitors to come to campus for events, to have to go through the Cleared For system and go through that. Departments themselves, anybody who's hosting the event, will have to check for vaccination status or testing. And this is all part of the guidelines that I sent out today. We have some very large events happening on campus, and this was impossible to do with Cleared For and with the amount of staff that's dedicated to that. And it's also part of CUNY policy that we don't need to screen in that kind of way for those events, but that they can be checked through Excelsior Pass, State Pass, for vaccination status or official testing of negative results. And you have all the guidelines in my email of today. So if you haven't read it, please take a look at that email. The second issue that came up was faculty lines. I thought we had a great meeting. There were over 70 faculty present last week, talking about lines in the long term. So to begin the discussion of long-term planning for faculty lines. This was the start of that discussion. So we're going to add all kinds of other information to that discussion and talk more again in the fall, because it's long-term planning. We want to plan out lines for the next 5 years. Where do we want to be with lines in the next 5 years? And master planning and I and the deans and all interested faculty will engage in that discussion and conduct that kind of planning in the fall. I'm about to put out on my webpage more materials that can help inform that discussion. The academic planning group that met during COVID has finally concluded its work and has a nice summary document and lots of research information that can help inform that discussion. We do have the report, the faculty council reports from the Gen Ed committee, and also the faculty council reports from master planning on programming that I will also put up on that webpage so that they're accessible to everybody and so that we can have those discussions. To do that kind of long-term planning. It takes research, it takes energy, it takes all kinds of things to do that. And the fall is a good time to do that and get that work done. So we'll be prepared to start that cycle for next year's hires. For this year, I've just sent master planning the enrollment data to look at and the information from chairs about line requests. Most chairs were also part of the discussion we had last week, as were the deans. And so that information will also help inform line decisions for next year. We don't have an allocation yet, so that's budget related. So we don't know how many lines we're going to get. Like last year, we're working a little bit blind, but we're going to prioritize those line requests and be ready to move with those allocations as soon as we have a number based on the number of lines that we'll have for next year. So that's where we are with lines. And I can turn this then over to Alan to talk about, and there was this very specific question about, Mariana had about pre-tenure. I don't recall the question coming up about pre-tenure last week in particular, and what happens to lines. The college has not had a long-term hiring plan And so from year to year, it has made decisions about lines based on the year and the needs of particular departments and what chairs put in and what master planning saw, and what the deans and the provost saw on a yearly basis. So that's how those decisions had been made. In the future, this is really something to consider, obviously, and something that'll be part of the plan because we will be doing long-range planning. So I think the issue will be moot moving forward. So thank you. And I turn it over to Alan to discuss budget.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody.
Alan, if we could wait for just a second. I think I see a hand up. I want to check. Jillian, did you have a question for the provost?
I do actually, and it's about the departments being in charge of their guests and working together with public safety. I know that you had indicated in an email that that was something that Marcus would get back to us about, but I wonder if you have any guidance for those of us who are trying to plan events. What does it mean? Does working with public safety mean asking them to do the checking? Does alerting them? Does it mean we do the checking?
No, it means you do the checking. So departments are responsible for checking. The departments, the email says, and the guidance says, but you coordinate that your guests are coming on campus with public safety. So you let public safety know that you have guests coming on campus so that they know who they are, that these people are coming and are aware of it. That's my understanding of it. And Marcus can provide more detail about how he was coordinating with public safety to discuss with public safety how that information would get transmitted. So as soon as that coordination is in place, I think he'll be able to tell you he was working with them at the last RRB meeting to do that. So I couldn't be more specific because he hadn't told me, and I wanted to get my email out because I know there are lots of events and there are many things that need to be done. But on the departmental level, which is why I wrote specifically to chairs as well, the responsibility for the check is departmental, right? So somebody has to check the vaccination or testing status of each guest before they enter the venue.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Alan.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So I'll give the budget update first, and then I'll go and address Funkay's question about the process for paying undocumented students through our foundation. So in terms of our budget, and this is all information from the university, and as Michelle said, the university doesn't talk about how they're implementing. They just talk about what was approved in the state budget at this point in time. So the great news is we're expecting a 2023 CUNY budget to be a better New York State budget than we have seen in years, at least a decade, if not more. Best news is there will not be a tuition increase. And in the past, every type of increased allocation always had a tuition increase. There is no tuition increase, no fee increases for our students. And there will be new faculty lines that are being funded. As Anne just mentioned, we do not know the amount of new lines we will be getting. Hopefully we hear from the university soon. There is going to be some relief from the TAP waivers. My understanding is it's not fully being eliminated, but partially eliminated. That will certainly help us significantly. There's going to be additional capital funding across the university. We'll hopefully find out soon of how much Brooklyn College is going to be getting. And there's going to be what they're calling some one-time allocations, but they've not provided any details of what the allocations can or cannot be used for. So we've been given no campus-specific information on any parts of our budget as of yet. We hope to have it in July. That's generally when we get information, maybe late June, July, sometimes early August on that. Unfortunately, though, the budget is not addressing, our funding for the enrollment declines that we've been experiencing due to the pandemic. The good news is that for next fiscal year 23, we do have HERF funding, that's stimulus funding for those of you who've been unable to attend presentations. And one of the categories that we're allowed to spend on, and it's the priority from the university, is that we could use the funding to cover lost revenue for next fiscal year. The HERF funding ends June 30th, 2023. And at this point, in the absence of other funding from the federal government, we will not have anything thereafter. And we really need to deal with enrollment, because if enrollment does not strongly return to our pre-pandemic levels, we do project that there will be budget shortfalls in fiscal year 2024 and beyond. But we're trying to be very, strategic and and intentional in moving forward. So, as the president has mentioned previously, the college is developing a strategic enrollment management plan, a SEM plan, with the goal is to increase our enrollments over the next several years. And we will continue and we will invest strategically in areas that increase areas such as enrollment, support student success, maintaining infrastructure and other critical college priorities. But the enrollment and student success is all of our responsibility of the entire campus community. We really need to pull together to make this work. I look forward, as well as everyone on our community, everyone's participation in the implementation of our STEM plan. And my expectation is that the president and Lillian will be, sending out information, shortly to the campus community, and really, move forward, as we start the next academic year when the faculty return to campus in late August. So those are the budget updates that we have. I'll talk about the undocumented process, and I can open up for any questions we may have. As Funke indicated, the university is allowing our foundations to determine the processes for making payments to undocumented students. And I've been working very closely with Todd Gollitz, our VP for Institutional Advancement, who's Executive Director of our foundation, as well as our foundation Audit and Finance Committee, on implementing the process, and have discussed with my colleagues at John Jay as well as others in the university. So the good news is there are several ways we can make payments now that we've already begun to do so. We're allowed to make emergency grants to students, which is, they're not required to do anything for that other than to document their needs for emergencies. That goes through the university's financial aid system, and those payments go directly to the students. So they're not being applied against tuition and fee balances. For other scholarships or for payments, stipends that are made for academic work related to a course that a student has paid tuition and fees, we also can put that through the financial aid process, subject to what the student's entitled to or maximum allowable, they call the student's financial aid package, and the student's documented need, pretty high for our students. So we generally do not have issues. But when we go through that process, if the student owes any tuition and fees, that the money first gets applied against that, and then the student would receive any balance if there is anything at that point in time. That is not something we control. So, but the payment does go through the student, to the student's account first, and then to the student directly. The challenge, what we're working on now, is how do we handle situations where a student is being paid for work that they're doing, which is taxable income, and our Audit and Finance Committee at this point does not feel that we could make payments to students doing work without filing any tax forms. These are finance professionals. They are very uncomfortable with that, even though John Jay's board have a different viewpoint. They are processing it through. So we are still working on that, and our foundation has agreed to engage our external audit firm and their tax specialist to try to come up with options that we have to see if there's any way that we could accommodate everything. The students could, of course, fill out this vast amount of forms in order to get paid, but we know that's quite onerous and somewhat intrusive in many cases. So we're trying to avoid that, because when we've done that in the past, some faculty members here could attest, it's taken months and months and months. Okay, so there's some questions in the chat. I don't know, let me start with Kathleen and Funke, and then I'll go to the questions in the chat.
Yeah, we're just want to remind everybody, we're sort of pressed for time as well in terms of completing the meeting. We still have some additional things to get to. Kathleen.
Thank you. This is a question that came up at our meeting with Anne, and it was, I think, what Mariana was alluding to. When faculty retire or resign, we're asking what happens to that personnel money that was being used for those salaries. Does it stay with the college? Are we able to use that for new lines?
Yeah, it goes back into the overall pot of lines that are allocated moving forward that the provost, works with master planning on and the deans and to make the allocation. That was always in prior, the last few years, the university who pretty much put a freeze on everything. It stayed with the college, but the university put a freeze on allocations. But prior to that, it just went back to the overall pot, and then we were notified about how the lines were going to be allocated accordingly.
But it does stay with the college then?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's an
okay.
expense to the college. It's an expense to the college and based on how much budget we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
Thank you very much, Alan, for what you're doing, but it sounds like this is a very complicated process. So I'm wondering what kind of outreach is there to the students who need the assistance to help them through this process? I mean, I've given up money with Brooklyn College for the complications of all the form filling that is entailed. But so
we're hoping to avoid that moving forward by going through the financial aid system when it's allowable. In the cases that I've been working with, our faculty members in the program, and it's been very time consuming but very important, so it was a high priority. We were able to get them through the process working with our scholarship office and our student financial services office. But the programs are the ones really dealing with the students. Initially, of course, our student financial services team will be happy to sit with students as well to help them. My understanding, and I see Joseph on the screen, so he could, and Alan, I know is here as well, they could probably address it more. Besides the length of the forms and the complexity, I know there are concerns about the intrusiveness of the form as well, because we had several options. We could have gone through the Research Foundation, which was a less onerous form, but still somewhat intrusive as well. So, I know Joseph, but I see you in my screen. Do you want to explain more since you're the one who's speaking to the students?
Yeah, sorry, I hate to cut short this conversation, but we're only at the midpoint in the in the meeting, and I think this may require a longer conversation than we have time for right now. But it could be something that we can put back on the agenda for our next meeting.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, I'll jump in with a quick update on enrollment. And I'm mindful of time, so I'll do this as quickly as possible. I just wanted to give you an update on where we are for summer and fall and some additional information. Summer enrollment right now is down about 16%, which is not unexpected considering things are open this year and students have options and might choose not to go to school during the summer. Just to give you some example on fill rates for classes for summer. Hybrid classes have a fill rate of 37.9%. Online classes have a fill rate of 34%. In-person classes have a fill rate of 3.8%. So the in-person classes are really not drawing at all for summer. Regarding fall enrollment, new student enrollment is looking encouraging. Great news. We received for freshmen about 28,000 applications, which is 200 more than we had in fall of 2021. We've admitted so far, and again, we're still admitting, we're still getting allocations from the university. We admitted 15,000 students. As of today, we have 18,075 freshman commitments, which is 200 more than we had in fall of 2021. We're expecting between now and the end of the cycle about 200 more commitments. And again, this is based upon the pipeline expression of interest, even though May 1st was the national commitment date. So we're still doing this outreach and whatever to get additional freshmen committed, advised, and registered. And I have to just mention that our admissions processing is one of the best in the CUNY system. We literally turn around the decisions within 48 hours after receiving the allocations. Staff works nights and weekends to get this done. As far as transfers are flat. We received about 4,900 applications, which is about 400 less than we had last fall. Again, allocations are still coming in. We admitted about 2,600 students, which is 180 less than we admitted last fall. And we have about 920 commitments, which is down about 90 to where we were last fall. So we're hoping, to catch up. Our real challenge at this point is continuing student enrollment. As of today, there are 4,300 continuing undergraduate students who have not yet registered for fall 2022. We're doing extensive outreach to support these students. We're trying to identify the reasons why the students have not registered so we could help them and address their obstacles to persistence. We even have sent a brief survey to these students to identify the reasons that they haven't enrolled and what support they need. Any help in this area is greatly, greatly appreciated. If you get students into your office that have obstacles to their enrollment, let me know and we'll do whatever we can to help. Just to give you an example, Jessica, our registrar who runs great reports, gave me data today, and there were 1,145 students who have 90 or more credits who have not registered for fall. And these are students that don't have any holds. These are students who are eligible to register. So it's such a shame. These students are so close. And this is exactly the outreach we're doing. We're telling them, you're so close. What can we do to help you to register? Graduate enrollment is down a bit, but the graduate students tend to enroll later. They tend to commit later. So we're hoping to be, when all is said and done, on part of where we were last year. As far as like fall and fill rates by modality, the hybrid courses have a 34.5% fill rate. Online is about 19%, and in person is about 22%. I have some information regarding retention rates from fall 20 to fall 21 by ethnicity for Black or African American students and Hispanic Latino students. For freshmen, for Black and African American students, the retention rate is 81%, which is slightly down from previous year, 0.3%. For Hispanic and Latino students, it's 75.1%, it's down 2.6% from fall 2020. And of course, we're trying to identify the reasons for this drop. For transfer students, for Black and African American students, the retention is 76.8%, which is plus 1.3% from prior year. And for Hispanic and Latino students, it's 78.9%, which is minus 1.2% from prior year. Just a brief note, CUNY has appointed Renee Sarmiento, who was formerly the Associate Provost and VP of Enrollment Management at Lehman, as the Interim Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management. She has a wealth of innovative enrollment experience. As a matter of fact, we adopted our scheduling and electronic transfer system from Lehman. And, we look forward to working with her on addressing enrollment challenges. As Alan mentioned, we have SEM works. We're very excited this work is moving forward. The strategic enrollment plan will be issued shortly, and we're looking forward to entering into the implementation phase of round 1 recommendations. And many thanks to everyone who participated in this really important project. Just a note regarding admissions. I mean, everybody knows that there have been staffing challenges in admissions. And, I'm very happy to report that we're we have launched searches for the following positions: a data analytics person, which we desperately need to get the information we need to really make informed recruitment decisions, an associate director of recruitment, undergraduate admissions counselors, a graduate admissions counselor, and part-time graduate admissions processing staff. So we're very excited to bring help to those areas. Again, thank you all very much for your support, and whatever I could do to help, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, we'll have a resolution later in the meeting on admissions staffing too. So if you can stick around for that, it would be great. John, can I ask, is this a very brief question? Because we really do need to move on.
It's extremely brief.
Thank you.
Lillian, thanks a lot for that report. I have a question regarding the large number. I think you said it was on the order of 1,100 and change of students who are current students who haven't yet registered for the fall. I'm wondering whether it's possible for your office to send departments and programs lists of students that are in our programs and majors, that maybe we can have a word with them and take a look, because we don't know. I mean, we don't know whether that applies to any of our students if they haven't registered. And whether
John, we will gladly do that. We could break it there. Right now, there are a total of 4,300 students. So any help, I mean, we're doing outreach to these students. We're doing it by cohort. We're doing, we're doing outreach, but any additional help is greatly appreciated. I'll gladly
definitely let departments help out in this, because it's, this is something that
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on to a report from the Committee on Committees. Professor Levy.
Yeah, thank you.
Would you like me to share the list?
Please do, our new slate. Okay. First of all, I want to thank my committee, the Committee on Committees, my colleagues, and I will name them because they do such amazing work. And so that is Jillian Kavanaugh, Jennifer Cherrier, Ken Esty, Yehuda Klein, and Jean-Edi St. Paul. They make this work so much fun, and they're amazing colleagues to work with. I also want to thank those chairs and members who are stepping down for various reasons and no longer serving. Thank you so much for your service this year. I know it's been an interesting year, and in some cases 2 years. So thank you for your service. As you can see from this slate, and we'll go through it a little bit, Tim can scroll, but there's a mixture of sort of familiar names and brand new names. So especially at the chair level. So we're very happy that we've been able to sort of get some new people and to keep this a mixed kind of slate as we're, transitioning, getting people across the board. It's so important for our committees to reflect the values and the rich diversity of our community. So we try to the committee works very hard, and it's only with your help that we can do this. We need the full range of people to reflect that community, that rich community. So that means across schools, departments, ranks, race, ethnicity, gender, and most of all, experiences. So please continue to serve. We need you all from all walks of the Brooklyn College ranks and backgrounds. I do want to say that it's important that we spread the work, as you know, and I particularly want to say that too often we talk about service as though it's a burden, but serving, especially on these committees, can also be, a rich and engaging experience. These are committees that make a difference, that can change policy, that can help, the college do its work. So please think about, if you haven't, being a part of it, and encourage your colleagues to do so. So I want to talk about some of the vacant, you can see some of the vacancies. We have some chair vacancies. Academic integrity needs a chair and 2 people. Admissions has 2 vacancies. College integrity, 2 vacancies. Thank you. Undergraduate curriculum, and a very important committee, right, to do our work, needs a chair and 1 member. Faculty student disciplinary needs 3. Gen Ed, actually we have a new, someone just said yes, Professor Rahman from anthropology. So we only need 1 more person on Gen Ed.
Sharon, let me interrupt you there. Do you want to add that name to this list? Because we're going to bring this list to a vote. So
yeah, so can you type that in, or
no, it's a PDF, but
okay,
if you want to I mean, I just wanted to, if you're
yes,
formally you've
I
done
am
that
adding,
verbally, so that's fine. Okay,
we are adding her to that list under general education, so that will be, if we vote on that, that's with her, the addition.
And you can provide an updated list which we can circulate to the delegates. Thank you.
And Sharona, I'm sorry, it's Jennifer. Dale said that he would serve on the student disciplinary committee, so we only have 2 vacancies on that one.
Oh, great. So that's Dale, help me, last name, from
Dale
Africana.
Byam. Dale Byam.
Sorry. My dyslexia, as some of you know, kicks in at funny times.
And I see Michael Mayer's comment in the chat that he is willing to serve on faculty student disciplinary committee.
Oh, fantastic. So that's 2 of the 3 that are needed.
Yeah, Sharona, if you could just make sure you're keeping track of the names that we're adding, that would be terrific.
Dale and Michael Marr.
Okay.
Yes, I will definitely. So thank you, because I can't quite see the chat as well. And then we have 1 person for review of interdisciplinary programs and 1 for student records. And that should be it, I believe.
Yeah. Okay, so I believe we can accept nominations from the floor for any of those vacancies. I see, Stephen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just have a question. I see that Gunja has been nominated as the chair of master planning. I just wanted to ask, has she been on the committee before? And the only reason I ask is because I was, chair of this committee. I had never been on it before. I think it would be good to have as chair someone who's already been on it. So I just want to make sure she has been.
Yes, Gunja was on actually the previous committee to yours, and she was approached to be chair before, but she went on sabbatical.
Okay, good, thanks.
I think Mona has a
yeah, Mona.
I think I want to put Derek, but I have to ask him, but maybe review of student records. Sharona?
That would be great. Derek Adams of art for student records.
I do feel like I have to ask him.
Yeah, so
well, we
Mona,
need his.
That's a good idea. Let's hold off on adding somebody to the list who hasn't been asked. We'll have another chance.
I sent out an email to him, but he's not responded. So I don't want to put someone on who is not accepted.
We'll have a chance, of course, to fill any remaining vacancies when we see the list again in the fall. So.
Good.
I have one more. I'd like to nominate Megan Ferentz for interdisciplinary programs. If there's an opening and not the chair. Do we work that out? Okay.
Yeah, Mobina agreed to be chair. I need to thank all the people who have stepped up to be chair, and there were many new ones.
Are we?
She's agreed to serve?
Yes.
Okay, so we're making that change to the roster. Very good. Any additional nominations from the floor? I see no more hands raised. So if there are no questions for Sharona, why don't I start that poll? Please take the next 10 or 15 seconds or so and vote if you intend to.
And I'm happy to send out an updated list just so people know after the vote where we stand.
Thank you. Give you another 5 seconds to vote if you intend to. Okay. In the poll and share the results, you can see that the list has been approved with 84 yes votes, 1 no, and 1 abstention.
Thank
you, Sharona, and thank you to the entire committee for all your hard work. Next item on our agenda is a report from the University Faculty Senate. Professor Cohen.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Brief summary from the last 2 UFS meetings. The plenary on February 23rd was the conclusion of about 2 years of discussion about creating a UFS standing committee on community colleges, and that proposal was presented and passed. And then at the last plenary on March 29th, 2 resolutions were discussed, both passed. The first was from the Academic Affairs Committee, and it was a resolution critical of the CUNY Chancellery for their directive for the spring 2022 distribution of class assignments and modalities without prior consultation of the UFS, which is contrary to CUNY Board of Trustee bylaws. And the resolution invited the CUNY Office of Academic Affairs and the Chancellery to engage in collaborative consultative decision-making with the UFS through its Academic Affairs Committee. Then the Academic Freedom Committee of the UFS presented a resolution defending academic freedom to teach about race and gender justice and critical race theory. The whereases were lengthy, and then the resolution was quite lengthy, but the very first be it resolved summarizes pretty well and says that the CUNY University Faculty Senate resolutely rejects any attempts by bodies external to the faculty to restrict or dictate college curriculum on any matter, including matters related to racial and social justice, and will stand firm against encroachment on faculty authority by the state legislature, city council, any outside entities, or even the board of the trustees. Tonight is the first plenary session for the 2022-23 year, and we will have the election of all of the UFS executive committee members at large, and chair and vice chair, and I believe we have a Brooklyn College faculty member who has been nominated and on that roster for election. Also, a proposal from the Status of the Faculty Committee on Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access at CUNY that will be presented and discussed. I'm not sure if it will be voted on. Some resolutions need to be presented and then come back at a later meeting. And that's it.
Thank you, Doug. Any questions about items from the University Faculty Senate? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you again, Doug, for that report. Now we are at the point at which we are considering the degree lists, list 2021/11 and 12. Those were circulated in advance of the meeting. I hope you all had a chance to take a look. Does any delegate wish to remove a student from those lists for cause? I can report to you, Professor Stanachenko isn't able to attend the meeting, but he has confirmed to me that the committee has reviewed the lists and found them to be in good order. Let me read, if I can find it, the resolution for us to consider, and then we can move on to a vote. Resolved that the Faculty Council of Brooklyn College recommend that the Board of Trustees of the City University of New York grant to the students named below the degrees indicated. I will launch the poll. Please take a moment to vote. This is the most important thing we do here at Faculty Council. Give you another 10 seconds or so if you intend to vote. Okay, thank you. I'll close the poll and share the results, and you can see that the degree lists were approved. 82 votes in favor, 1 no, and 1 abstention. And now we move on to reports from standing committees. First up is the Committee on Undergraduate Curriculum and Degree Requirements. Professor Gonzalez. Rennie, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
And let me know if you would like me to
Yes, please.
Share the screen. Okay.
Yeah. So there are quite a number of documents in this curriculum document. I think about 38 altogether. Just to speed things along, are there any questions about any of the items in the document? That any corrections, anything that you see that needs to be fixed?
Jillian.
I just have one little friendly amendment. It's a for the proposal changing the course for American Studies that's cross-listed with the anthropology. That there's the prerequisite is listed. The anthropology prerequisite is listed as 1001, and it should be 1100. Not 1001, but 1100.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. What page is that on?
That is on, sorry, I'm looking at you.
American Studies. There's 18, 19, 20, 21.
It is on page, sorry, it's on page 27.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see it. Okay.
We'll treat that as a correction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jillian.
Jennifer.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I was looking for an amendment, but I see that Rennie did miracles and that it's already included in the document. Thank you so much, Rennie. Appreciate that.
Okay, you're welcome, Jennifer.
Any other questions for the committee? Okay, I'm going to stop my screen share and launch the poll. This is the vote for curriculum document 420 from the Committee on Undergraduate Curriculum and Degree Requirements. Please take the next 10 seconds to vote if you intend to. Ellen, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I would like to thank Rennie for his extraordinary service this year. It's been a tough year, lots and lots of documents, especially for the English department. But I also want to thank him for his many years of service to Brooklyn College and to acknowledge how important he has been to the English department, the Department of Educational Services, and to the linguistics program, and wish him very well in his retirement.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Ellen.
John.
Thanks, Tim. I promised to be quick. I wanted to just piggyback on what Ellen said. I was planning on mentioning this at some point, since Rennie is going to be on Travia next semester. This is his last faculty council meeting. And just as the current director of the linguistics program, I want to thank Rennie for being a constant source of inspiration and support. You'll be very sadly missed by the program and by all the literally hundreds of our linguistic students that you've taught over the years. And best of luck. I'm going to miss you.
Thanks a lot, John. Thank you very much.
Let me add to the chorus of thank yous, Rennie. I really appreciate the work that you've done on the committee this year. And please convey the thanks of faculty council to everyone on your committee as well. It is crucial to the work that we do. Let me
Thanks, Tim.
end the poll and share the results. Curriculum document 420 is approved, 81 yes votes, no votes, and 2 abstentions. And now we turn our attention to the graduate curriculum committee. George.
Thanks, Tim. The document speaks for itself. I just wanted to reaffirm that any changes for the fall 2022 bulletin have to be approved by the provost after our approval. And further, only minor changes can be made. For example, the provost office has already informed us that course titles can no longer be changed effective fall 2022. So we'll be changing the effective date on Psych 7791G and 7792G to spring 2023. Slight real-time change to the document, but that's all.
George, would you like me to project or?
I don't think it's necessary. We don't
Okay.
have the kind of extensive changes that
Sure.
Mary had.
Any questions for the graduate curriculum committee? Okay, seeing none, let me launch the poll. Please take a few seconds to vote on the graduate curriculum document. Has everyone who intends to vote voted? Seeing no more votes come in, I'll close the poll and share the results. A graduate curriculum document 269 is approved, 76 yes votes, no votes, 2 abstentions. Thank you very much. And George, I thank you for your service to faculty council this year, and please convey to members of your committee our deep respect for the work they've done this year.
Will do.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is a resolution from the Committee on Admissions. Is Professor Meriwether in the meeting?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Malcolm, the floor is yours. Would you like me to screen share the resolution?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the entire committee for their work this year and for coming up with the following resolution, which basically affirms and offers support to our incredible admissions team and recognizes the struggle that they incur as being an understaffed area, and the direct result of not being a fully staffed area. These are statistics that were taken directly from our admissions office. And we also did a comparison with other senior colleges, specifically John Jay College, which has seen a prosperity in admissions even throughout the last 2 years in the pandemic. I think the document really speaks for itself. So are there any questions?
I'm not seeing any hands raised. I'm going to close the document to better see you all. Any questions about this resolution before we bring it to a vote? Okay. Seeing none, let me open that poll. Give you 5 more seconds if you intend to vote, please do. Okay, I'll end the poll and share the results. The resolution is approved, 73 yes votes, 3 no votes, no abstentions. Malcolm, thank you for bringing this resolution to the to Faculty Council, and please convey our thanks to everyone on your committee for the hard work they've put in this year. We have a annual report from the Committee on Honor Citations and Awards. Is Professor Fullington with us?
I am. Hello.
Leanne, the floor is yours. Let me know if you would like me to screen share, but since it's an annual report, really, if you have anything to add, please do, and we can then take questions.
I think it's probably all there. The main thing was we did 256 applications and we did all of the work remotely, and it worked really well again in the pairs and doing this sort of evaluation remotely using the next gen software. So yeah, that's all I've got.
Thank you. Any questions for the committee? Okay, seeing that we don't have to vote on an annual report, Leanne, please, thank you for your hard work this year, and please convey to you, the members of your committee, Faculty Council's gratitude for your work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Terrific. Well, colleagues, I'm sad to report that that is the end of the state agenda, but we do have some new business. So let me turn our attention to Mona.
We're so exhausted. I would love to just not do it, but I'll do it very quickly because I am speaking for quite a few people, and it's meant in the best spirit. I'm the impartial one, and that's why I'm bringing it up. It has to do with where the interdisciplinary programs are housed. I say I'm impartial because the PMA is housed in the arts, so it's not, you know, a one-on-one issue. I'm just the voice. And here quickly is the resolution, which Tim helped me, or in fact gave me the words for. Resolved that the Faculty Council of Brooklyn College recommends to the administration that interdisciplinary programs report to the dean of the school of the current director.
Thank you, Mona. Any questions or comments about this resolution? John.
Yeah, thank you, Mona, and others who were involved in thinking about this, and again, on behalf of other program directors, thanks to the entire body for approving the earlier resolution that this one is related to. I don't have a very strong feeling about the resolution that you've just described, Mona, but I do have a question about it, or at least, or maybe, or one potential concern. And that is that, I mean, first of all, I'm not even sure exactly what it means for a program to be housed in any school. I mean, when I think about it, there are maybe, there's really only
Excuse me, I said report to, not housed.
Okay, well, report to, yeah, so.
Of the school.
Right. I don't know that, I don't even really know what it means for a program to report to a school. Other than perhaps every semester, we submit our course schedules to be approved by a dean's office. And if in as much as that's what it means, I wonder whether it might make sense for every program to be, for each program to be reporting consistently year after year to the same school, because you know, that dean and that dean's office then has familiarity with the curriculum, and so it always involves work to, you know, get a new administrator or a new colleague up to speed on the particular issues of the curriculum. And so I wonder whether that would be a bit disruptive to have to constantly.
If I can just answer briefly, and then Yadidja has his hand up, to the idea that we've now voted in something that says that the program head will be voted in for 3 years. And it seems to me that during the 3 years that the program head is there, they should work with the dean of their own program and maybe sit in on their meetings, et cetera. But should another program head come from another department, it should shift.
Right. I'm not sure how that addresses the concern that I have.
I would like other people to talk.
You did, Jeff.
You did.
So Mona, I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with this. And for the same reasons that John just put up. Interdisciplinary programs are interdisciplinary. Okay, they don't sit necessarily in a particular department from which the director comes. Okay, there may be a program that's run by the School of Natural Behavioral Sciences, another one by the business school. And despite where the director comes that particular year, 3 years or whatever, the program has to be stable. I would oppose such a motion. Okay, I believe that the interdisciplinary programs, okay, need to be stated when they're created, where primarily they're going to be, and it should not be bouncing back and forth. And by the way, someone before wrote on the chat box a list of interdisciplinary programs. Just as there is a graduate data analytics program, you left out, there's an undergraduate analytics program that is being set up, okay, and that is being run primarily now by the School of Natural Behavioral Sciences, even though our very own Tim Shortell may end up being the director of that program. And I don't believe that should be bouncing back and forth from dean to dean, which unfortunately can turn out to be very, very messy and very, very political and in my mind, extremely inappropriate. I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren.
Your thoughts.
Hi, I just wanted, Joseph asked me in the chat if the program directors had an opinion, and we don't have a unified opinion on this issue. But I do want to sort of highlight the fact that the directors want to make sure that wherever the programs are housed, AKA whatever dean is approving our not our curriculum, sorry, I misspoke, are approving our schedules, will actually pay attention to us. That is something that we are really hopeful that we really, really, really want. So in some ways, this conversation might need to happen with deans too.
I just want to say that I'm very happy just to hear people's voices, because that's what I want, is the discussion to the degree that we have it.
Yeah.
Mona, you introduced the resolution, but you didn't give any reason for it. I mean, what is the problem it is meant to solve, and how will it do that? I have no dog in this fight. I'm just trying to understand what's going on.
Strangely enough, I have no dog in it either, and I've really just been listening to my colleagues, and there's a huge concern that so many of them are housed in HSS, which is not against HSS, but that fairness would be that if it's switched, if we really have interdisciplinary programs and they switch to another department head, that department could in fact be the place where it's housed, and it could be the dean that they report to, and it could be the monthly meetings that they are part of. And that is what many people said to me. And again, as I said, I am strangely impartial on this. It just seemed fair. So that's it. And how would it help? I mean, for example, if I'm on women's studies, if I were elected to be the director at some point when I'm not chair, it's a magnificent moment in the future. I don't know that I would want to be at HSS. I might want to work with the people in the School of the Arts, who are, many of them are also in women's studies. So that was the idea then. And I would like other people to speak up, because I am the voice of other people who felt this way. Does that help, Dan? And there are specific instances, but I'm not going to air them, where people did feel that programs were pulled from their area to another. and they were not happy about it. So it's a question of continuing the governance. I mean, we worked very hard. I had many emails just clarifying. We all did. And we worked very hard to make a fair system. I thank all of the chairs of all the interdisciplinary program heads for having them be voted in, for just lots of improvements. And this seemed to be the last piece to discuss. Does that help, Dan? Okay.
Anne.
Thank you. So I'm going to use my voice here, and that is the interdisciplinary programs need support. And I agree with the consistent support idea. There are lots of ways maybe to do this. One is to create a division in a school of interdisciplinary programs and to house programs there and to provide the supports they need for special attention. That's one idea. Another idea is to cluster them thematically, so that those that have most in common are together in a specific school or in different schools. But there's a lot of reason why historically here the programs have united together, right? And so they identify together, and the program directors identify together, which speaks to keeping people together. But there might be ways that, based on the disciplines that they represent, that they might be thematically represented. There are some national models, so I'm speaking from these national models now about how we might organize interdisciplinary programs in a way that really works for the faculty in the best possible way. So.
Thank you. Dove.
Like Dan, I'm in accounting and we don't have an interdisciplinary program, but upon hearing the idea, it made perfect sense to me, primarily to protect the interests of the program directors so that they get recognized by the dean, so the dean of their school gets to see all the work they do. My second point is that because they're interdisciplinary programs and the college values interdisciplinary programs, it therefore makes sense that supervision should travel from school to school and should not be housed necessarily in one school. That's
Thank you. Uditya, is your hand up again? No. Jennifer.
Yeah, I appreciate what Lauren had to say about needing stability. I can understand that. And also what Anne said about needing support. But I also think we should look at models, national models. I mean, interdisciplinary programs are generally interdisciplinary and they're not necessarily housed in one school over another. So I think we just need to think on this a little bit more, but I do think that there has to be stability. I think a rotation thing wouldn't be stable, but I'm not necessarily, other models that I'm aware of, they aren't housed in one particular school. Usually they're under their own type of a division. So I think it's a discussion that needs to be had going forward.
Joseph.
First of all, I want to say I'm really grateful to those of you who have been thinking about the programs. And I feel like the college has done such a better job of this and thinking in a concerted way about the programs and the place of the programs than it did for many, many years. So kudos to everybody who's been involved with that. I know it's been a lot of chairs, deans, the provost, everybody. It's great. I'm willing to vote on this, but as a former program director, I would like to imagine that there would be a resolution that could achieve consensus among all the program directors. That would be the ideal situation for me. So I was formerly the director of American Studies. And so it made sense when I was director for me to report to Ken Gould, the dean of my school. But it would be really quite conceivable that the next director at some point for a 3-year term could be somebody in music, which is in the arts. And if American Studies jumped after a decade or 20 years from being in HSS to being in the School of Visual and Performing Arts for 3 years, I think that would present a problem for the program because that dean would have no familiarity with the program, no understanding of the curriculum, the scheduling process, the habits, and no interest in providing space, investing over the long term. I just think it would be a really strange situation. So that does concern me. However, under the current situation, if somebody from music were to become the director of American Studies, then they're reporting to a dean they don't know. And the dean doesn't know them. And that's also a problematic situation. So again, I don't have a solution. I've only been thinking about this for the 12 minutes we've been talking about it, but it does seem difficult. And I appreciate Anne's comment that we need to find a way to maximize support for the program director. So again, I'm willing to vote on this, but part of me wishes we could extend the process to think a little bit more about the place and structure of the programs in the college before making this kind of a decision.
Thank you. Eddie.
Yes, so sorry because I wasn't at Brooklyn College when they decided to have the dean to have different school, because according to my understanding, it was not always like this. And I think when I heard about interdisciplinary program, so for me, is interdisciplinary program within like a specific school, because let's say at HSS, we have different department and different school, different department, but in the school, humanity and social sciences. So when I see interdisciplinary programs, so I see that in HSS, we can have many interdisciplinary programs, but within HSS. So, and I think also the same logic can be applied in the School of Visual, Media and Performing Arts, and so on. But now mixing, HSS with, because HSS and the School of Visual and Performing Arts, they don't necessarily have the same philosophy, they don't work the same way. So I think that moving one interdisciplinary program after 3 and 5 years to another school, for me, I don't see the logic. I think it will cause more harm than good. But again, excuse me, I wasn't at Brooklyn College, so when they start the division of different, well, I think we need more time to discuss that, because this is a very important issue.
Yeah, we won't have time to discuss the history of how Brooklyn College came to have schools. That will have to be for another day. Clara.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to recommend that we don't vote on this today because it seems that there are so many issues. And I totally agree that with this large number of students, stability is a major issue, but it's not, the deans are not just approving, I guess, the schedules, but there are a lot of issues. And when new programs are created, it's also about budgets and faculty. And so in order to have an overview of all of that, I don't think it would be a good idea to switch schools every 3-4 years when the program director changes. And also, I think it's important that people are motivated. So I guess, and I would assume that the deans have a vision for their schools. So interdisciplinary programs, as we develop new ones, they would somehow fit into those visions. And we know that we started doing these cluster hires and everything. So I think this is a much more complex question. Then it's not just about the schedule, I guess. And so it would be great if the chairs and the program directors and the deans could have more discussion about, and the provost, of course, have more discussions about that and really consider different models, because there are other models, as Jennifer said.
Okay, well, we just a point of order. We have a resolution in front of us. Several people have suggested we need more time to discuss it, of valid position to take, obviously, but we'll proceed to a vote unless somebody wants to make a motion to, I'm going to have a question for Yadidja here. Oh, he's maybe already anticipating, since this was a motion from the floor and not from a committee. Yadidja, answer my, you know more about this process than me. You're muted.
I was going to beat you to the punch to make
Okay.
a motion to postpone until next semester. Now that requires a second.
Second.
Okay. And notice I'm not saying to table, because if you make a motion to table, it sits on the table forever and ever unless someone removes it from the table. I'm making a motion to postpone, which means that it goes on to old business next fall. And hopefully Mona and others will reconsider what I consider their very poorly designed motion and come up with something else. But in any event, I'm formally making a motion to postpone to the fall. It needs a second.
Yeah, and I believe it's been seconded. By the way, Yadidja, I am the author of that poorly worded resolution you just mentioned.
You, Tim.
That is maybe the problem.
Okay, fair enough.
No, don't. That's not fair.
No, that's all right. We're just kidding around. So we have a motion to postpone. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion to postpone? I'm seeing no hands raised. So I'm going to launch a poll, if you'll indulge me, because I did not make a poll for the
Why don't
postpone.
you just ask if anybody opposes or abstains, and if everyone agrees to postpone, you don't need to go make your poll.
Thank you. Once again, the voice of reason from our parliamentarian. Does anyone wish to abstain or vote no on the motion to postpone? I'm seeing no indicators on Zoom. Therefore, the motion to okay, the motion to postpone is passed. We'll take it up. We'll put it on the agenda under old business at our September meeting, which I think we all hope will be in person. This is the last Faculty Council meeting of the year. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work. I'm extremely proud at how seriously we do faculty governance, and you're all the reason for that. So thank you. We'll convene again in one medium or another in September. I hope you all have a restful summer. I see Jennifer has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a motion next year when we're all in person that we have a pizza cook-off, right? We need some Bad Timmy pizza, and we should have a pizza cook-off on campus and a big, huge feast.
I'm on board with that. I am willing to bring my best pizza
Me too.
making to the campus.
Me too. All right.
Irina.
Yeah, I just want to thank the steering committee, cabinet, and Kathy, the Secretary of Faculty Council, for all the work that you do for us to keep us going. So Kathy, thank you very much for all your work. And I think Kathy is just a college assistant. So, just to take into consideration how much work she does for us and to keep us on track. Thank you.
Indeed. And let me extend our thanks also to the delightful folks at ITS, including Andre, who helped with this particular meeting. I'm not aware of any other new business, so I am willing to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. Have a great summer.
Very good. See you all